The pain for reentry. I, when you're coming back into society, there's a lot of pain that you go through before you even come out because you don't know what's going to happen. You got to find a place to stay. Things are not coming into play like they should real fast, and you're all stressed out, wondering what's going to happen. Am I going to get a place? Am I going to get a job? All these things come into play. And you can't get out and go look for a job. So you got to depend upon your pre-release counselor or somebody coming in doing a job fair or somebody going by a place and picking you up an application. A family member calling somebody and asking where they give you a job. In all the way that it's going to happen. And there's sometimes there are employees that might pick up an application for you if they like you well enough and get it for you and take it back. I took applications back all the time. You know, it didn't matter about liking a person. They trying to get out and they come ask me and say, I don't have a job. Can you help me find a job? Sure, I give it my all to do whatever I could to help them or to find a place to stay. And I think I found more jobs and places for guys to stay than anybody else in the prison. And it's just because of the fact that when you're in a service capacity, you're trying to serve. And I never looked at working as a chaplain in the prison as a job. And I always said that if I had to look at it as a job, I would throw up at the gate. It's service. And I believed in being a servant to the people. Transitioning from prison to reconciliation with society. And that's what you're trying to do. Because society has dictated you as one way. That's why you're locked up. Now you got to come back and try to reconcile and fit back in. And it's not always easy. So you have to keep working at it. And that's reintegration, is just getting back into society when you're released. And that's part of release. Housing, now you got to move from the crack house to the safe house. So finding a good place for the lady to stay and to be safe is important. 1 out of 4 women don't know where they're going to stay when released. And that's possible. Sometimes people will say, well, I give you a place to stay just for you to get out. And once you get out, you still got to find a place. But the problem is that if you move, you got to go deal with the parole officer. And so it makes it difficult then for you. Only about 54% of the women will find stable housing. So can you again see the need for housing for women? That's a real need for them. Same-sex persuasions and bisexuals are 4 times less than heterosexuals to find a place to stay. And that's makes it kind of rough. And I think that you may understand why people feel that way. I think sometimes society in general just don't have a good tolerance level to people who have different lifestyles. And we have to move beyond that. Because the only thing changes that is the Holy Ghost. 78% will be affected by drug influence. And 31% say their neighborhoods are not safe, that are safe. And 59%, the low figure on that, will recidivate. And of course, it's going to bounce between that and 78. Why do women go to stay out of trouble? 76% go and stay with their families. 64% go to their church. 55% go to a friend. 51% go to AA and NA. I'm glad that 64% don't come to the Adventist church because we just don't have houses. That's one of our real sad things is that we don't have houses like that. We've never gotten off into it, so we got to do better. And I'm glad to see some movement in Georgia-Cumberland. Uh, I think at least you ought to get the ball rolling, and hopefully it'll get better as we keep going trying to get prison ministry done. Few women will find the use of respite in parks. They won't use them. Um, Programs only 33% take advantage. Shelters 11%. Shelters are so uncertain for people to stay in. 60% of black females can't find a job, and it's even higher for that than black males. 35% of white females can't find a job. 59 to 68% recidivate in 3 years. 40% have less than a 12th grade education among women. The literacy rate is like 37 to 50%. 30% on SSI, 47% on food stamps. Mental health among females released from prison, 65% are suffering from depression, 33% bipolar and manic depressants, anxiety 28%, schizophrenia 9%, and with depression, and it's hard a lot of time for people to get into mental health facilities and get the treatment that they need. Depression, I mean, and now you find a whole lot of people now getting almost strung out on Depakote and Cymbalta and Abilify, Seroquel, Trazodone, and then you get down to bipolar, and they even doing the same thing and adding some lithium and Vistaril and some Ativan and Clonopins and going on down. You get down to some schizophrenics. You're getting Geodon and Haldol mixed together to knock them out. So it can be pretty tough for people who are coming out with all these illness. And when you're in prison, these things can happen because it's real. And I mean, it's real when you're on the outside and you have to deal with it. And then, so I think all of us, there's a degree of mental illness among all of us. And you may say, well, no, you just talking. When the last time you went to the refrigerator and you said, what did I come here for? Yeah, I do it. Yeah, but the Lord is still good. He's once you stand there for a minute, he saw you came here for some orange juice. Interventions needs that women need when they get out of prison. They need a lot of counseling therapy, anger management. Some people just don't know how to deal with their anger. Have you seen people just blow their tops? They don't know how to do it. Any little thing tick them off, and they just go off. That's one of the really kind of tough situations to deal with is somebody with a bad temper that can't control their anger. And working in behavioral health, I hate when them situations come up because what it means for me is a code 100. That means that we getting ready to rumble because you got to take them down and you got to pop them with some Geodon and Haldol, and you got to knock them out for the rest of the night. But anger management is something that's needed. I mean, even sometimes with your own children, they have some pretty rough anger problems that need to be controlled. And you can tell anger management problems, they start out young. And if we don't help them get in control of it, it gets out of control real easy. And I watch sometimes parents in the stores, and they're telling the children not to do something, and then the kids fall out in the floor and cry and kick and just raise all kind of sand. And so the mom just saying, Johnny, don't do that. Johnny, you know that's wrong. Johnny need to be taken in the bathroom and given one of them good country whipping. And it'll change him. That might sound cruel, but my mama whipped me so she gave me about 10 whippings a day. And she beat the devil out of me. And so she told me it's only one thing left for you to be, and that's a preacher. And so, I love my mom to death. We never had a crossword in our life. But I was just bad. And so every whipping I got, I deserved it. Aggression is another kind of treatment therapy to people who are very aggressive. Some people are just too aggressive. Some people are very abrasive in their aggression. I don't know how to talk to people, rub you the wrong way. Don't mind telling you, if you kill my cat, I'll kill your dog. Just tough. So they need help in trying to come down and be more tolerable in managing your attitude, so that you can live with people and among people, and above all, you can live with yourself. Resentment. There's a lot of that goes on with females who are coming out. They've been dogged out. So they have a lot of things that they are resentful about. And so they need therapy. In other words, in these different things here, I'm really just saying that when a person comes out of prison, they are having a lot of things that they are going through that they didn't get when they were locked up, that now they got to get when they get out. And if we don't have things in place to help them, then they're going to be right back into some similar situations. Attitudes, abandonment, feeling rejected, and conflict, don't know how to handle it. Conflict comes up, they just assume to really just brawl, than to try to resolve it in a civilized manner. Substance abuse treatment is another area that they need when they come out. You may say, why? They've been in prison, they ought to be dried out and clean. But they had access to the stuff all the way till getting out. And so now they need some help. Outpatient treatment, substance abuse classes, 12 steps, AA, NA, all of those A's they need. And so the only way that we can help them is that we got to provide some services for them to help them. And this is women's ministry. This is women's ministry for women who are coming out of prison. All I'm talking about now is for women. Men got their own set of issues, but women got a set too that they got to deal with, because they didn't get the same kind of probably help that men got when they were going through the system. So it was harder on them. They have educational needs, opportunities. A lot of them don't have GEDs or ABEs, adult basic education, for people who really couldn't read and write. And there are people in prison that can't read and write. And you would think in this day and age, how do people miss out on not knowing how to read and write? But it's still happening. And if you have a skill that you can do that, hey, that's a skill that needs to be put into action. Literacy classes, um, vocational rehab classes, computer literacy, trade certificates and programs. There are things that you can set up at your church. In fact, you'll probably come more likely to get money for a lot of programs like this to start in your church than you would somewhere else, because you can write these grants and these demonstration grants that you can get for these programs. Because one of the things I think that the president and the Congress and everybody they want people to be put to work. Everybody who wants to work should be able to get a job. Family counseling, family reconciliation. A lot of families, a lot of ladies as well as men, when they leave from prison, they got to reconcile with their families. And you know why? Because they burnt bridges. Some of them left with a sour taste that's in their parents, their fathers, and moms. And they actually got to the point that they didn't want them around. And now you got to go back and you got to reconcile, because now you got to convince the parents that you were wrong and that you want to live better and that I've changed. And that I was strung out on drugs and alcohol and I didn't know any better. Well, I didn't know what I was doing. And so now we got to try to reconcile with this family. And those can be hard bridges to build, to reconcile families back together. Parenting classes, usually if you can go into prison. Anybody who raised children, they've grown, you pretty much know how to do some parenting, because you had to get your children through. And you didn't get the age that you are, and nobody here is really old. I think everybody here is over 30. Except for maybe on the front row here. But I don't think that you got 30 and over by just being stupid or being a fool. I think you got there because, you have some good sense. And the Lord has preserved you. And so you got a lot that you can give and give back to the people. And those who made mistakes. And there's nothing like having that motherly influence, and especially the grandma influence. A lot of the ladies look at them, that's Granny. What did Granny say? So Granny makes the difference. And I think grandmothers makes a difference in all of our lives. And I was only able to really be around one grandmother for a while, and she lived to be 103. But she was an awesome little sister about this high, and she carried a big stick like Woodrow Wilson. She kept stuff in line. And my grandfather lived to be 96, and he was quiet for 94 years. In the last two, he talked more than he did in 94. But it was just the good influence that senior parents had on us who were younger, and it made all the difference in our lives. Then we have mental health services and family health services, all things that women need when they come out. Because most women, when they come out of prison, do you think they're going to have health insurance? They're not. They got to get it. So we can help them do that. They may have to get TennCare or Georgia-Care. I don't know what's in Georgia, but I'm saying Georgia-Care just so you know what I'm talking about. So that they can get help medically. You said Peach Care? Okay, Peach Care. That sounds good. All right. So that you can get help when they come out. And then it's badly needed. So you can see that you have a lot of things that you can do for women when they are released from prisons. Housing needs, they're going to either live with their family, they're going to live in a house a halfway house or a transitional house, um, and they're going to need housing for the lady and her children. And some of them are going to be able to get in public housing and apartments, and some of them are not going to be able to get in there. Because if you have a felony record, then it becomes very, very difficult or almost non-existent for you to get into public housing. And they will pull up your records and say that you have a record, and you can't get there. So you see the big need for housing for them, transportation opportunities. They're either going to be public transportation, private transportation, uh, and then if they got a car, they got to find affordable insurance. And if you have a transition house and people want to bring their cars there, by all means, don't let them park a car on that parking lot unless they have insurance. And pretty much don't let anybody have a car inside of 30 days. So they don't need that. They need to focus on getting a job and learning to comply with the rules that you have set up. And if you have an Adventist transition house, you don't have to make an apology to nobody for the rules that you set up to govern by. Social service needs, clothing needs for the parolee, for the children, and clothes that they can wear on interviews and to church. Benefit needs, health insurance, Social Security cards, birth certificate, state ID cards, food stamps, and dental hygiene. And there are little discount cards that you can get through all of that. And so when women come out of prison, you can see that there are a lot of things that you need. And I know you can't write all this stuff down, but hopefully we can get this on the net for you so that you can pull it off. And even if Becky needs to copy it and send it to you manually or do an electronic transmission to you, she's welcome to do that so that you would have it and you can pull it up and then print it off on your printer, or you can file it in your folder so you can always have access to it. Household needs, food, furniture, soap, toiletries, clothing, all those things they're going to need when they come out. Okay? Life skills training, budget preparation, what is a budget, how to budget, how to open a checking account, but most of them don't know how because they never had. If you were dealing drugs, where's your bank? In your pocket. You got to carry a big roll, or you got to hid under a tree, in the mattress, or up in the ceiling of the house, somewhere. So then you have to learn how to balance the checkbook, and how to invest in a 401k or mutual funds. And if you've been using drugs all your life, you get what is a 401k? What is a mutual fund? That sounds like Greek. So they don't know anything about that. So what you're doing now is you teaching them how to be frugal, how to save, and to teach them how to get ahead monetarily. So the thing that you want to teach them, as far as money is concerned, is more how to make money work for you than you to make money. Because you got your money working for you, then you making money. So that you can have a comfortable living. That's what you want to try to get them to, some type of a way that they can live comfortable. I don't care about being rich. I just want to be able to live comfortable. If I want to go to the store and get a pint of Haagen-Dazs ice cream, I can go. That's all that I want. How to fill out a job application for job readiness, how to write a resume interview, dress for the interview, and then teach them how to keep a job once you get it. How to buy a house, well, they need to know, but it's kind of hard right now with the housing market. So they may want to rent now, but there was a time when you could teach them how to buy a house, and you can still teach them, but then you can show them the advantage of owning and not owning a house, and how much, if you're going to own a house, how much down payment you got to have if you're going to rent, how much rent that you have to put up. Conflict resolution, reconciliation, medication, arbitration, litigation, and negotiation. All that come up under conflict resolution. And self-dignity, how to dress, how to groom, etiquette, not being the loudest thing on the block, speech culture, learning how, I don't really care how people talk. And I think good communication is if I can understand what you're saying, then that's good communication with me. But then there are certain ways you talk that you got to talk, and there's a certain amount of, you got to have self-respect. So I don't tell anybody how to talk because that's your culture. And I try to fit in and understand your culture wherever you are. Because people probably can't understand me and my southern drawl. I'm glad to be a southerner. Don't mind it. It doesn't matter where you're from anyway, it's where you're going. Bible studies, I can't go all through all of this, so I'm going to have to quit. But then you got spiritual mentoring and teaching them how to live, how to live crime-free, and being a mentor and prayer partners, empathizing and not sympathizing, being a sister to sister. They need that real bad. Spiritual counseling, and all those things that they need, and establishing spiritual support. Styles of conflict resolution, competitive, collaborative, compromising, accommodating, avoiding, and rules for conflict resolution that you'll be able to look at. The process of resolution, and that's it.